This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Jordan Gill over Zoom. Jordan, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to catch up. A lot to talk about with regards to yourself, and of course, the return of UK boxing last night. Let's start off with last night, and on a happier note, the return to victorious ways for your boy Hopi Price. How would you assess Hopi's victory?
Oh, it was great. I thought it was very good. At times frustrating because the opponent was, tricky opponent. He was very short. He kept lunging in. He didn't leave many gaps, but Hopi nullified him very well. I thought he showed maturity, picked his way through it, and dominated. And I think really it was punch perfect. You couldn't ask for any more for a 20-year-old prospect coming through.
Obviously, I know you're not a matchmaker, Jordan, and you're not involved with kind of a management side of Opie's career, but I know you'll have some kind of conversations with him about how he can see maybe the year playing out for himself and what have you. Just on the back of that victory, there's a lot of talk about kind of for him moving forwards. He wants to continue to step up now, despite him being so young. He's starting to go in there with more. Not evenly matched opponents, but opponents with certainly better records than what somebody at this stage of his career would normally have. What do you think is next for Hopi?
I'd like to see him step up again. I mean, he was meant to step up this time and fight Zahid Hussein, who was 16-1 and Central Area champion at featherweight. So, that fight's still there. Hopefully, they can get that fight made. Hussein pulled out last minute and upset everyone. So if he can make the fight, then I think that's the next step for him, and that's a great step up. And then probably one more after that, and I'd say I'd like to see the Zahid Hussein fight over 8 rounds, because I think the more rounds Hope he gets under his belt, the better. And I'd like to see him step up into a title fight by the end of the year, whether it's English or British.
I mean, obviously, another man who is somebody you know very well, Lee Wood, finally picking up that coveted British title. What did you make of Lee's victory against Rhys Mould? It was a very good fight up until the point of the stoppage.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a really, really good fight. I thought that Lee boxed very well. Obviously, Rhys Mould had his moments, and you could probably argue that he won a couple of rounds here and there. Yeah, he won the fourth round big. Was it the third? One of the, where he hurt Lee. He rocked him slightly, but Lee come back in the next round and dropped him. He's got that power that can turn a fight on his head, but at the same time, I thought he controlled it well. I could see improvements from training with Ben Davison, even in such a short period of time that they've been together. So I think that we're only going to see more and more improvements in the next coming fights, and I'm excited because he's a serious fighter. So if they can carry on making the improvements and carry on getting the big fights, it's going to be very exciting. But I thought Lee boxed very well. I liked the lead hand activity. I liked how his posture was. He was a lot less upright than normal. At certain times in the fight, I could see him drifting back to the way he used to be. But then he sort of switched back into what I could see Ben had been drilling with him in the gym, and it worked perfectly. We all said before the fight, Rhys Mold's basic. But he's strong and he was very tough. So hats off to Rhys Mould. And I've said in another interview that Rhys Mould could probably come back and win a British title, even if he doesn't win last night, which he didn't. But that was a hard fight for him, a steep learning curve, and whether he'll be the same after that, I'm not sure. But fair play to him. He toughed it out. He had his moments, but the experience won on the night.
With Lee, I know he's wanted to fight for a British title for such a long
Yeah.
time, and a lot of fighters they like to win it outright. But the point was made, he's 32, and he's kind of going to be looking at what's next. Do you think he needs to effectively just move straight up once again, see how far he can go, especially under the guidance of Ben Davison?
Yeah, I think he could. I think he should do. I think he should do. So whether it's what he wants to do, at the end of the day, he'll ask for the fights that he wants, and the management, Dave managing, he'll try and get him the biggest fights he possibly can. Because, like I said, he is 32. I feel like he's very young, 32, and I still think he's got at least 3 years left in him. And he loves the sport. He lives it. He keeps in shape all the time. He's always lean, and there's no reason why he couldn't box 35 and pass. So he's got time. There's no rush, but I'd like to see him in the European or world title eliminators, pushing towards, he had a close fight with Jazza Dickens. It was a good fight with Jazza Dickens, and Jazza Dickens getting a world title shot. So he showed his class there. But yeah, I think big steps are needed, not just for Lee, for everyone at the moment. So bigger steps forward, whether he wants to fight, defend the British title or not. I'm sure Ryan Walsh will probably be arguing that he deserves a shot, first defence of the British title, but whether Lee moves on and vacates or fights Ryan Walsh, that's a good domestic fight that's probably past British level anyway. So that's a option, but I don't know. He'll do what he wants to do, and I'm sure he'll look good doing it.
Jordan, just as you mentioned, Jazza Dickens there, obviously he's getting ready to face Kid Galahad for that vacant IBF strap. Just your thoughts on their fight when we do have kind of a date and all the other details finalised and confirmed.
I think it's a great fight. It's a very intriguing fight, because the first fight I was there, boxing undercard of the first fight. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and the fight was a great fight. I had Jazza Dickens winning the first fight up until the stoppage. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of talk of that was before Barry got busted for Stananzalo, and it's interesting to see how both their careers have gone in different paths. Obviously, it was a good few years ago now that they boxed. Jazza's got the momentum of having very good wins against Lee, against Ryan Walsh, against Carlos Ramos. So it's an interesting fight, and Barry showed his class in the Warrington fight. Got beat, but showed improvements in his eliminator after that, I thought. So it's going to be interesting. I think Jazza will be looking to cause an upset, because I'd probably make Barry the slight favourite, but it depends on who gets the tactics right on the night. It's a good fight.
Jordan, I did say we was going to come on to yourself. We will come on to yourself very shortly because I forgot about two very big things that happened last night. Two very big talking points. Firstly, obviously, Josh Warrington's shock defeat to Mauricio Lara. Just your thoughts, Jordan. What did you make of it?
Unbelievable. It shows you can never look past anyone in boxing. And for me, the whole week, people were talking past Mauricio Lara and talking about, completely disregarding him, and talking about the Kanzu fight or the Gary Russell fight. And, I heard that they already got a date for his next fight. And, when you box at that level, you can't look past anyone. I think it was probably foolish to do so. So, fair play to Mauricio Lara. He come out, he took what he wanted. He imposed himself from the start. And for me, I know there's been a lot of talk about how Warrington didn't look himself from the start, but what was Warrington doing that he doesn't normally do? Nothing. But what was happening to him? He was getting caught, and he was standing and trading, and he was teeing off on Mexican like he normally tees off on everybody else. He was getting tagged back. He was getting tagged to the body. He was getting hurt. He was getting tagged with a left hook from the first bell. And with big punches, with tough guys, you can't get away with that. So I think if he rematches him, he'd have to be a lot more defensively minded. But that's not Josh Warrington's style. Josh Warrington's style is to sort of rumble forward. He throws succession of punches. He's renowned for having great energy and a high work rate. So, for me, tactically, it was all wrong against this guy. So I think Josh looked the same as he normally does, but tactically got it completely wrong. And it showed. It was a torrid fourth round for him. I don't know how he was allowed to carry on after getting up. I don't know how he got sent out for the fifth round, and I don't know how he sort of got back to his boxing and got back to his feet, and had success in other rounds. But it was sad to see one of our best British fighters get it finished like that. But that's boxing. Sometimes you lose to people that you're supposed to beat, and sometimes you beat people that you're supposed to lose to. But it'd be interesting to see how much that takes out of Warrington. And personally, I don't think he'll be the same fighter after that. It's going to be very tough for him. But we'll see.
You've raised some very interesting points, Jordan, and things that I would have asked you about. Just to kind of go back to the fight, a lot of people thought maybe the referee should have stopped it in the fourth, or his corner maybe should have pulled Josh out before the fifth. As you said, maybe he shouldn't have been allowed back out. Just your thoughts. Do you think that should have been the case? Do you think that the fight shouldn't have gone on beyond that point?
See, in the fourth round, when he was all over the shop, he got up. Okay, fair enough. Let him continue, but he was getting pummeled, and his legs were completely not underneath him at all. Managed to make it back to the corner. I think he should have been stopped on his feet in that round anyway. He made it back to the corner. They sent him out again, and I think if that was me compassionately, if I was a trainer, which I don't have any plans on ever being, then I would not have sent the fighter out. But he did get sent out, and he did sort of survive and then have success. So to say that Howard Foss, who was the ref? Whoever the ref was, to say that he was wrong to not stop the fight. You could argue either way because he made it back and got to his feet. But in the rounds after that, you could clearly see that he wasn't the same. His legs weren't underneath him. He was concussed. And I'd argue that I'm sure you'll interview Josh Warrington and get his opinion, but I can imagine that he didn't remember anything after that first knockdown. I can imagine that he was concussed from then, and for me, it should have been stopped.
Jordan, another fight on the card, one which caused a lot of controversy. Zelfa Barrett versus Kiko Martinez. A lot of people unhappy with the scoring of the fight. Your thoughts on the cards, and once again, British judging coming under criticism?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to score a fight when I'm watching because I never really look at it as a judge. I look to see technique and what each other's doing. But as a fight, who's winning, who's not winning, or how close a fight is. And either way, personally, the way that I feel, maybe Kiko nicked it by a round or two or a draw. So I think Zelfa finished the fight better. I thought he was sharper in the later rounds. And he sort of managed to get back to his boxing and look good. But, there was a good stint in the middle of that fight where he looked like he was getting worked over by Kiko. And no disrespect, they're both very good fighters. So when they read out 118, 112, or 118, 111, was it?
Yeah, 118, 111 twice.
To give Kiko Martinez 2 rounds and 1 draw, I think that's disgraceful. And I don't like to ever slag off judges because I'd hate that job. That's not you can't win in that situation. So I don't know why they sign up to become judges. But for me, that was completely wrong. Even if you did give it to Zelfa, it would have only been by a round or 2. So I think it comes to a point where you have to look at the whole setup and the whole system and think, you know what, that's not right, and it's wrong to have fighters come over that have been at world level and are classy fighters to mug them off like that. I don't think it's right.
Jordan, let's move on to yourself now. Obviously, you fight next week versus Cesar Juarez. Just talk to me about this fight, and I know he's only announced this week, but for how long have you been working towards Cesar?
By the time I get in the ring, I've had 2 weeks' notice that I was fighting this fella. So he was confirmed last Saturday for me, or last Friday. So yeah, it's a tough fight. It's a very tough fight. He's a seasoned pro. He's another Mexican coming over. I've been having banter because I'm 1-on-1 with Mexicans, so I'm seeing it as a best of 3. So for me, what happened to Josh Warrington last night couldn't have come at a better time for me personally. Obviously, I would like Josh to win last night, but for me personally, it's a serious reminder of what not to do. You don't fight a Mexican like a Mexican. So yeah, he's a very good fighter. He's only lost at top level to either top 10 fighters or world champions. He seems to be like a gatekeeper to people that go on to win world titles, people like Isaac Dogbo, people like Angel Leo. He had one of the fight of the year contenders with Nonito Donaire for the world title. He's a very, very good fighter, very tough fighter. He's got 19 knockouts in 25 fights, 25 wins. If he does get dropped, he gets back up. He's got that fire in his belly. He's got that Mexican pride, that machismo. So it's good. It's a good fight.
He certainly is, Jordan. It's a great fight for yourself and another good step up. How are you expecting it to play out?
I don't know. Who knows? That's the thing. It was what last night showed us. Anything can happen in boxing. So, I know what I need to do to win the fight, and that is use my boxing skills and not get hit. So that's what we plan on doing, and how it unfolds, we'll see. But that's why it's exciting. That's why it's important that everybody tunes in. Sky Sports Arena, 7:00.
I know you've obviously fought once already during the pandemic, Jordan, but do you feel the pressure now more than ever? We're still kind of uncertain as to when shows will return to some form of normality, where you get more fighters on the cards and we'll get fans back and what have you. Do you feel the pressure to make sure you perform well next weekend?
Yeah, I think I felt the pressure against Bellotti more so because, it was a long time since I boxed. I had a fight cancelled because of the pandemic. I was coming off like a good layoff. I had a thyroid condition the year before, which ruled me out of another big fight. So I didn't have no momentum whatsoever. And the motto is no easy fight. So I went straight into the Bellotti fight. I knew I had to win that fight. So I felt the pressure then. And then behind the closed doors, it made it even a bit stranger. For me, it's not that much difference. I'm not a sort of fighter that has to G myself up. I like to stick to the plan and follow Dave's instructions. But I can imagine for someone like Josh Warrington, who relies on the crowd, like last night, or somebody that is a firefighter, they get hurt and have to be lifted by the crowd. I can imagine that it's hard, and they'll feel the extra pressure, or that'll be on their mind. But I know what I need to do. The pressure's on because the fans aren't in the arena, so more people will be watching on TV. So it's exciting. I'm just excited.
Jordan, final thing I want to ask you about is the main event next weekend. Josh Kelly, David Avanesi, and a lot of people have been excited for that one. He's been on, off, and now he's on. Hopefully, we say that. Just your thoughts on it?
It's a great fight. It's a fight that's been a long time in the making. I remember being at the weigh-in for the first fight, because that was in Sheffield. I remember Adam Booth and his team, Josh Kelly and Mick Conlon being up that week. Mick Conlon come to the gym and we'd done some sparring. And then obviously what happened at the weigh-in, he didn't look well, pulled out the fight after. It's all a story. It all builds to make the narrative. So it's interesting. Obviously, David Avanesi, he's a proven fighter. He's been in with Lamont Peterson. He's beat Shane Mosley. He's won a European title. He destroyed Kerman Laranga not once but twice. So he's seasoned. He's proven at that level. But when you're looking at prospects coming through, I think he's not even a prospect, is he, Josh Kelly? He's a contender now at European and world level. So I think when you're looking at these guys, you have to look at not what the other person's done, but what skills they have and what they have in their repertoire to cause you problems. And I just think, looking at the two of them, Josh Kelly's fresh, he's young, he's got a lot of ambition. I think he's going to be one step ahead of David Avanesi at all times. And I think Adam Booth will draw that into him. I can see Josh Kelly looking good, maybe having a few sticky patches in the fight, but overall coming through and looking good and being one step ahead. But I've been wrong before, and I might be wrong again. And we'll see.
Right, Jordan, we'll leave that there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. But I'll leave a final word to yourself ahead of your ring return once again next weekend. What would you like to say to everybody who will tune in?
Tune in, enjoy the fights. It's a big show, big night for me. Let's hope we get a big win and push on to bigger and better things.
Jordan, it's a pleasure to catch up with you as always. Stay safe. Good luck next weekend. And thanks, Speeds Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.